Yeah.
बादाम नहीं खाते ना, दे तो खा लेंगे.
Divesh, can you put others on mute? So Shantanu, can I request you to share your view on changing times and what's happening during COVID-19?
Yeah, so thanks, Tanveer. Thanks, Dr. Madhumita. Thanks, Sidney. So I'm just going in order. When my turn comes, I'll thank the others. So the way I look at it, Tanveer gave a very good perspective of what's going to happen in the immediate future. Now, we might curse our luck saying that why has COVID happened only when I am studying? Okay, to me, it is something like Abhimanyu's Chakravyuh. Abhimanyu learnt about the Chakravyuh when he was still unborn. You guys have learnt about difficult situations when you guys have not even come out of campus. I think this batch of 1921, the kind of adjustments they have been made, I have seen it very closely with a couple of institutes like Indira, which I work with, but I'm sure it has happened with all the students all around. This, what you have experienced and what you have gone through, don't just look at this in the short term. This is something which you will carry with you throughout life. And with a bit of luck, and I'm sure it's going to happen, unlike the mythological episode in Abhimanyu where he learned how to get into the Chakravyuh but not how to get out of the Chakravyuh, I think you guys will know how to get out of the Chakravyuh as well, because that will happen at a time where you're still a student. Right? I mean, I'm optimistic that this is going to happen. So people are talking, so don't look at it as just what's going to happen to you in September of 2020, October of 2020, whenever the placement season starts. That I think Tanveer and Frederick and Stafford, all of them will give you a clear picture on what sectors are really recruiting. The second thing is Tanveer mentioned something about, what got you here won't get you there. Okay, and I want to quote another concept from the same guru, so to speak, Marshall Goldsmith. He says, focus a lot on moving from know-how to show-how. Okay, so know-how is the knowledge which you learn. And I think know-how, the academic thing is all geared towards the know-how. So know-how are the classroom sessions. But I think 70% of what the recruiters will probably look at it is that how do you convert this know-how into a demonstratable show-how, right? Now, there are lot of opportunities for you. So for example, I know Srinivas and his team have, and we are talking about it with our clients as well, about lab in the box, where you have a group of students who are working on common industry problems. So that's one way of doing it. Your summers where you're currently engaged is a great opportunity for you to convert this know-how into a show-how, right? You will have also a lot of extracurricular activities which you have done, and all the time you were thinking, why am I doing all this? That is also a part of converting your skills from a know-how to a show-how. So guys, I think look at this as some kind of I'm a metallurgical engineer by studies. I've forgotten most of it by now, but I do remember there is a way in which you harden metals. And once that metal is hardened, it never comes back to its original. So I think these tough times, guys, will not be there forever, but these are something which are hardening you. So all the best. We'll carry on the discussion. Thank you, Srini. So these are in effect my thoughts.
Thanks, Shantanu. While I knew that you understood the IT sector quite well and education sector, I realized that you know mythology also quite well. Thank you for that anecdote. And I think this know how to show how is a fairly important aspect to say that how, you may be good, but you should also look good, not just aesthetically, but, essentially through your knowledge and application of your mind. I think very well, that point has come in. I'll request now Dr. Preeti Saxena to share with us, given this COVID time, and there is some questions which are coming in as well, of what courses to do, how do we maximize this time, what kind of projects do we do. So wanted to just ask you, ma'am, that what is your message to the students, hundreds of students who have come in here from a placement perspective?
Yeah, I think, all of us will be quoting Tanveer in some way or the other, because the book that he mentioned, it tells very beautifully that every one of us may not have that internal compass, which drives us in the right direction. But we can definitely correct our direction. We can change our course understanding, with the kind of the cognizance and the intelligence that we all have, we can definitely do a lot of course corrections. The ones who will do the course corrections will definitely stand a chance. And I see no reason, at this point of time, that opportunities are going to come down. It is the time when industry has an opportunity to correct itself in getting the right talent. And this is the time when it can demand from people that you be good. And for that, a lot will depend on the self learning of the student. That doesn't mean that the institute lets them go off. The institute has to work on a different platform of working on the emotions of the students at this point of time. So they all have the kind of anxiety. They have a mindset which is telling them perhaps things are dark and gloomy. There are too many blind spots. So, but I feel that at this time, it's also an opportunity for industry and academia to work with a more deep relation. And students need to keep working on, the self preparation is something which will matter a lot, because the faculty student interface has got minimized and they are not meeting each other in person. That also adds to their anxiety. But if the students continue working on self preparation, there is a connect between the industry and academia where we work more focused rather than spreading wide, and looking at, many initiatives. If we can focus on the number of initiatives which are absolutely matching with the industry requirement, and that is where I say that industry academia needs to come closer, and we work on developing students in a very customized way for what the industry wants. I think that is what is going to work, and we need to do that fast.
So thanks, Dr. Preeti. I think a couple of important aspects that B schools are not just in the business of improving IQ, but EQ and SQ you touched upon. I think that's very important, given the millennials that each one of us are responsible for and the kind of things corporate is looking at. I think it's a balance of IQ, EQ, and SQ put together. I think you've put it quite well. I think next point is also very important, and I'm saying this with responsibility. The partnership should not be just a vendor customer kind of partnership between corporate and the B schools. It has to be much deeper, maybe in form of certain real life projects. Summer projects could be in form of some small internships, could be joint problem solving, joint research. I think that's a very valid point, because in good times probably it's more of a demand supply way of looking at it. Thank you for sharing that experience. Can I now request Strafford, who is from the new world, if I can say so, from the world of Flipkart, uh, you know, to share from his perspective, how are you viewing placements 2021 from a new age company's perspective? What differently are you doing and looking at it? Over to you, Strafford.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Srini. I think for us, and I think for most recruiters or most companies visiting campus, we are looking for students who are ready to deploy on field. I think gone are the days where an organization is looking to get talent and then train them for a long period of time and then get them on board. Uh, Most companies are going to expect students to be ready. And how do they get ready fresh out of college is through the various ideas that many of the panelists mentioned right now, right? The summer internships, doing live projects, uh, case study challenges are another very good way for students to get a chance to work with live projects from companies. So I think we're looking for talent that has good context, talent who's ready to get deployed on the field really fast.
Got that. I think what I'm hearing Strafford to say is that for want of better word, experience freshers is what it means, because when you are actually coming in as a fresher into an organization, companies do not have the wherewithal of training 6 months and getting you ready. But how can you use those 2 years of campus or next 1 year for the case question for the people? How do you do some of the real things, practical things, so that when you come into an organization, you are ready to be deployed? Thanks for that expectation. Yeah. Can I request Dr. Saini to share her view from the world of NL Dalmia to say that how do you view the placement 2021 and some of the things that the institute must be doing? Over to you, ma'am. Dr. Saini, are you there? Ma'am, I think you're on mute mode. Can you
Yes,
kindly unmute? Yeah.
thank you, Dr. Srini. And it's wonderful to hear all the panelists and their viewpoints, what they've put forth. And absolutely right, I resonate with what Shantanu says. Abhimanyu knew how to get into, or probably it just was inherent in him to be in the chakra, and he didn't know how to come out of that chakra view that he got into. And here, these challenging times that are there, and our children have been just exposed, our students are just out there ready to plunge into these challenging times. I'm sure they're going to get that wherewithal to come out of it. It's good to hear the other panelists speak of very optimistic scenarios as well. And I see what we feel, that what you do every single day in your campus, what you do in your campus to strengthen the academic rigor, to give them the worldview of what the corporate is like and how they need to contribute positively, maybe by taking research projects, by having corporate mentorships through our alumni that we have there, or live projects which the students take, but they get a hang of what is happening there along with the academic aspect as well. The labs that are so important, whether it could be the marketing labs that they have, or the HR growth labs that you could talk of, Frederick, like you had been talking, and whether it's the fintech labs that we have. You're preparing every single day, you're preparing the students for out there, the world there. And I think the COVID-19 scenario has changed a lot of things. The work culture which is coming in, our internships have already gone that line. They've got permissions to work from home, and virtual onboarding is going to begin. uh, Obviously, the hit is there. We know that the placement offers have been deferred, to some even going to the last quarter, but most of them almost August is what they have deferred the date of joining to. Now, these kind of scenarios are challenging times, but the students have not. I don't think they've missed a single day out there trying to, get on the skills, whether through certification programs or through their upskilling themselves. So I think our students are getting pretty prepared, keeping those things in mind. And challenging times, yes, of course, but that's how we come to know. We find a way through all of this to ensure that our students will be successful and would be able to achieve better.
Sure. So I think what I heard, ma'am, is that when going gets tough, the tough get going. So
Absolutely.
apart from the usual lot of work, hard work that students do, and colleges encourage and create platforms for doing, of rigor is much more higher, has to be much more higher this year to undo whatever this slight disadvantage that may have. But I think common thing I'm picking up both from academic leadership and the corporate is there is fair bit of optimism, which means things are not as bad as what newspapers talk about, or what we keep hearing, so many hired, so many fired. I think those are all part and parcel. But I guess our Raj Dharma is to make sure that we are as close as possible to the expectations of the corporate, tweak our programs little bit, tweak our approach little bit, work more hard to bridge the gap. Thank you for that, ma'am. Can I now request Rimi, representing Ola, the new age company, to share her views on how does she see 2021 compared to others from new age companies perspective. As some
Sure.
of you may be aware that Ola is one company which must have probably recruited 200 odd MBAs and engineering graduates, and have been active in this campus field. Over to you, Rimi.
Thank you, Srini, and thank you everyone for your views. I think most of you have rightly said that the future is not as grim as it seems, and I too resonate with that. But there are some points that I think is definitely going to change for all the campus recruits. That is definitely the way they're going to start interacting, the way we're going to onboard them, the way they're going to start interacting with their managers, with all the employees. So what I'm trying to say here is that the facial what I'm trying to say is that the face time that they would have with employees probably would reduce, because social distancing is something that is going to be and is the need of the hour. For example, if you take students who are going into sales and marketing kind of profiles, where there's a lot of field visits, field executives, where they have to meet certain those set of employees. For example, in your FMCG kind of where there's going to be a lot of fear even amongst the consumers to actually start interacting. So the need of the hour is for all students to start training themselves, change their mindset. Uh, it's going to be a lot of behavior change that is going to come for them. There has to be more focus on overall mental well-being. So maybe some courses on that, on what okay. And I also think that students should start building more of their personal brand, because again, FaceTime is going to reduce. Learning how to do an elevator pitch over the phone, virtually, this is how it's going to be. And in fact, the recruitment season that's going to happen this year and probably next year too, it's mostly going to be virtual. So students would not have that kind of time to start impressing the recruiters during their interviews, the interviewers. So it's about how do you make a quick pitch about yourself. That's going to be a very important thing. So self-grooming, personal branding, uh, and an overall behavioral change mindset, working more on your soft skills is going to be very important.
Yeah, thanks, Rimi. I think important aspect on personal branding. How do you position yourself? How do you create content around that? And most important aspect you touched upon is the digital skills. I think while every one of us needs to be prepared, and I've seen one question somebody has actually posted, each student has to prepare for interviews, and I'm sure colleges must be doing its best to train students on. I think basics of digital skills are extremely important, right? Earlier days, one would talk about having a diary, certificates, and a pen, walking into an interview room. Today, interview room is all virtual. So, what are some of the Zoom etiquettes? How do you understand? What's the backup? How do you keep your answers precise, right? How do you use some of the things to explain in writing while a meeting is going on, so on and so forth? I think that's some skill one has to get into.
So Srini, I'll just interrupt for a sec.
Yeah, please.
So I think this is for students. This is important because we have gone through mock interviews with about 300 students. No, more than that, 600, 700 students virtually. And some of the common things which you guys should really look at is certain digital hygiene factors. Is my camera okay? Is my net working? Many of you take interview calls on mobile. It's fine to take it on a mobile, but the whole thing can't be shaking and vibrating. Make sure nobody else is in the room when you are there. You don't want your younger sister to suddenly enter the room from the back. So be conscious of these facts. These are very different from a traditional interview. And like Dr. Srini was saying, even uploading documents, somebody wants to say that, do you have a certificate for this? So can I upload it on a Zoom and send it? So those areas one should keep in mind. Yeah.
Thanks, Shantanu. Now I'll invite Frederick to share his view. 7 years in campus hiring space, hundreds of campuses you have been visiting. How is 2021 batch special, or what is some of the trends that you are expecting? Over to you.
So I'll break that question into two parts. One is what could be different, or what is the expectation from B school graduates this year, and what is the impact that COVID has had. So first and foremost, the expectations from B school graduates are still the same. Nothing has changed. What has changed is the fact that there's just a demand supply mismatch. So what has happened is there is probably more demand this year there's more supply this year in terms of people passing out of graduates. There would be a lot of people who would have lost a few jobs. So the kind of supply over there is much higher. But what is it that we expect from B school graduates, and what has largely been the expectation all of this while has been certain very clear thought processes. One is with regard to career clarity. Students many times we have seen when we are interviewing people in these schools that they have this Niagara complex in which the thought process is they go with the flow. So they have whatever they have achieved in life so far and whatever they want to do, they don't have a proper strategy in place. So one, understanding what is your target. This is something I will take from Tanveer, and this is something which Tanveer has focused upon, is the kind of goal needs to be clear. Second, you need to ensure you break that into measurable aspects, and you got to keep reviewing it. I think the most important aspect which is largely forgotten is the idea to reflect on what have I done today, what have I done to get much better, because we are so much crazy running after information. And what I do see when I go to B schools is there's this cookie cutter approach, because every CV looks the same. Everyone has done the same kind of workshops. Everyone is, you know, some committee member in some committee, worked in some competition. Everyone's a Six Sigma green belt. So what's happening is you're getting a bunch of people who look the same. So what is it that differentiates you? And there's where I feel labs play a very important aspect, because this is what allows the student to create an individuality, right? They got to understand what are their career anchors. So from the little research that I've been doing, I have observed three major aspects which determine employer satisfaction. And that, let's say, is not the only construct, but one very powerful construct which all of us agree determines the employability of the student. So one is the student's passion, ability, and will to keep learning. Two is the kind of impact the B school has, the kind of practices, etc. And third is the environment and the importance to the particular career anchors an organization gives. Now, with COVID coming in place, what is it that we are going to have to do differently? What are B schools going to have to do differently? What are individuals sitting for placements going to have to do differently? So while everyone has shared that, of course, the situation is not so grim, and to be very honest, the way I put it and the way everyone should look at it is, see, I need one opportunity. I need one job. I don't need 300 jobs coming to campus. I need one job coming to campus because one job is good enough for me. What I need to do is I need to prepare a strategy, and I need to know myself best. I need to differentiate myself, of course, taking a little from Rimi as well. You need to create your own personal brand. What's really unfortunate is after 30 minutes of an interview, and in fact with a lot of the interactions I have with students, they come back asking questions, you know, how can I create, how can I be different? What's your feedback at the end of the interview? What can be my USP? Well, if you spent 25 years of your life, two years you have spent in this B school, right? 23 is something which makes you unique. The 23, 24 years you have spent before B school is your story, and that is what you got to pitch. You are here, and everyone's got to sell their story. Why do you feel you're the best for the job? What have you done? What have you achieved in life? What are those kind of skills which you have acquired, which are transferable into the job? If you understand the kind of culture, if you know and you prepare what is it that this company wants, and understand that these are the kind of career anchors I have, this is the kind of job I'll be successful in, this is the kind of introspection one needs to do a lot of psychometric tests, understand, develop themselves, go through, you see, before you are successful out there, you need to be successful over here. So before you're successful in an interview and able to answer a question out there, you should repeat that answer 100 times over here. You need to prepare, you need to develop a pigeonhole for yourself, and everyone's interview strategy has to be different. Unfortunately, when you ask people, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what people are spitting out, or what people bring out is very common cliched answers which you find on Google. And that is something which really needs to change. So the expectations from students are very simple. Understand yourself, understand your individuality, understand what kind of a person you are, understand the kind of career anchors you have, understand what is the kind of skill set you require to survive in that company, how are you going to thrive, and most importantly, focus on other aspects of employability like EQ and spiritual quotient as well, because at the end of the day, gone are the days when when knowledge was power, because today knowledge is available everywhere. What's unfortunate is everyone knows the 7 P's of marketing. What people don't realize is how to apply them. So if you go back to the days of vocational training, nobody puts it in their CV that, I know how to do typing, I know how to do shorthand. What they put in their CV is, I can type at 40 words per minute, I can type at 60 words per minute, I can type at 80 words per minute. So that is the kind of practice, and that is the kind of individual understanding you need to be able to put out in your interview. You need to show why you are ready to hit the ground running. And that is what Straff has also been mentioning, because we need to shorten the time which the organization is going to have to invest in you, because the organization at this point of time cannot just look at you as the talent pool, right? And like I said, the competition is not just the people passing out from your batch in your college. The competition is not people passing out from your batch in other colleges. The competition is not just one batch above and one batch below, but the entire market. Because when you go out to sell, say, a packet of biscuit, it doesn't matter you have 10 years experience or 2 years of experience. The expectation is the same. The customer is going to kill you. The customer is going to have the same sort of expectation. So most importantly, work on yourself and develop that aspect and create your winning edge. The way I look at it, and why I say the picture is not at all grim, and it's very positive, because while other people right now are striving to get jobs, you have 1 year to prepare and you have 1 year to sharpen the axe, and that is going to help you create the winning edge. So placement season is like how we were placing people, everyone's getting placed by December, is not going to happen. That is going to extend to March and April, but I'm sure we can still hit 98, 99 and 100% placement. What I feel B schools need to focus on is creating individuality in each student, and help identify which student would be best for which kind of profile. Because if I have the right student hitting the right profile, his success increases considerably. And when this happens year on year, what happens is you create a brand. So for example, I know that for this role, this college is fantastic, because every year I get the right person and the right kind of pedigree which is coming out of this college, who's fitting very well into the role. And that is the kind of homework which B schools are going to have to do, and which is why I have a slightly different approach. And I'm going to say, while academics are important, knowledge today is available on the click of a button, and it has to be more on changing that approach into developing vocational understanding and ability to use that knowledge and use it particularly at your job. Understand what are the, and this is something which I've been sharing with a lot of B schools, is understand what are the kind of recruiters that come. Now, if I know that 9 out of 10 people who are coming to recruit for HR are going to recruit people in talent acquisition, I'm going to focus on talent acquisition, and I'm going to ensure that my students are the best in talent acquisition. There's no point training them on HR analytics. It's good to train them on that. There are some good to haves and there are some must haves. So creating these kind of labs is really, really important, because in a classroom, you learn what's right and you learn a lot of theory. In a lab, there's no right and no wrong. There's a lot of experimentation which goes on. You go in, you make mistakes, you keep doing, and you keep bettering your strategy. You keep developing yourself, and this is unique to you. And there's this concept known as a pigeonhole in interviewing terms.
Frederick, thanks for that, because I don't want a couple of points what you made, very important points for the students to lose out on. So I just wanted to butt in. I think very important aspect is define your competition. There are 4,000 B schools that the world has. I'm not even getting into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, but there are 4,000 B school, 10 lakh MBA graduates. So I think creating that unique methodology for yourself and not trying to be me too, and trying to be one more cookie out of a cookie cutter machine. How do you create your unique positioning? I think that's important. And also saying that classify what is nice to have or must have, and probably take it from there. Thanks for that, Frederick. Now I have a question. As Dr. Saini has said, and some of the academic leaders have said, that there has to be close proximity between institutes and the organizations which are hiring. So this question, I'll make it a little controversial, is for my friends from the world of corporate. You have hundreds of students, a few dozens of placement directors, executive directors, directors of different institutes who are on the call. Now, if very briefly, 5 expectations that you need to speak out in 5 words that you need to speak out, what do you look in an MBA graduate when you go for hiring, right? Specific skills, 5 specific skills. So this is the other way of putting is that you are setting your expectation to the academic world, saying that as a recruiter, these are the 5 things that I'm looking at. And if these 5s are ticked, I'm great. 5 words or skills that you're looking. Let me start with Tanveer.
All right. So thanks, Srini. I think if I were to look at the top 5, for me, communication now I think is no more the most important skill, because I think that can be picked up, that can be taught. It's very much a trainable skill. So I'm not going to be bringing that up. However, I think one of the biggest things that we keep seeing, we need to keep plugging at, we need to keep prodding at, is attitude, and that is a very umbrella kind of a statement, very universal kind of statement. However, you can make a person from good to great if she or he wants to become good or great, right? So I think that is one thing, which is ability to learn, ability to move forward, ability to be future focused, and positive, staying positive in good times or bad, really makes a lot of change. So that is one big blob of skills, or must-haves, like what Frederick was mentioning some time back. That would be one. Attitude, right? Apart from which, I think in terms of how things are going to be in the next few months, quarters, perhaps a couple of years, we need folks to be flexible. We need folks to really allow the storm to pass, but at the same time to keep the fire burning, not to allow this fire to go out. Many a times we need to align ourselves with the organizational direction, and the organizational direction in times of such great, heavy, strong headwinds is always going to be coming to the question, is going to be questioned at stakeholders meetings, stockholders meetings, and whatnot. So I think for people to be very, very flexible, not being fixed on what I started out and what I want to do, and this is what I want to do. I think being in alignment with the organizational requirements is going to be important. That is also going to allow to put oneself at the bleeding edge of innovation, to put oneself at the cutting edge of what is the newest thing that is happening. And I think that is the first step towards making ourselves available and relevant. If I were to perhaps put a third one there, I would probably say commitment. Many a thing can be faked. Commitment cannot be faked. Commitment, you either have it. I mean, it's a very strong duality. You either have commitment or you don't have commitment, and no B school can teach you. So I think commitment is something which I would want to see in the people that we would want to hire any given day. And ability to learn, unlearn, relearn, and keep the cycle going on and on and on, given the times that we are in, is going to be very important. So I would probably put it in one word, say learnability, because I don't think what we have learned is going to be of any use. I'll take a small example and a small scenic route towards making a point here. I was speaking to a CHRO, somebody with 50 plus years age group, more than 25 years of experience, and I was just expressing my fears, right? Just expressing my concerns about how things are going to be and stuff like that. And a very interesting answer that I got, that Tanvi, don't worry, it might be the first time for you, or for the first time that for the folks who you have just hired and they would be joining, that they are facing a COVID kind of a situation. Me, at a 50 plus years age category with 25 plus years of experience, I'm also facing a challenge of this type for the first time in my life. So we are all in it together. None of us has more or less experience about it. It's just how well placed you are in order to be able to take it. So I think that is very, very important for us. I'll probably take a pause for my other friends to take this question.
Thanks a lot, Tanvir. Right-brained important aspects that you covered about learnability, attitude, commitment, etc., etc. Now I'll request Shantanu to share that from the corporate, what have been the expectations, probably from the left brain perspective, because we have heard Tanvir from the right brain perspective. Over to you, Shantanu.
So, I tend to gravitate a little bit towards what Tanvir is talking about, right? So, and I think one area which he talked about was flexibility. And I think students are sometimes very rigid on what is it that they want and not being open to opportunities which are available elsewhere. If I were to look at some of the so-called left-brained things which you are talking about, Srini, is that there are certain areas where I think some amount of exposure should be given. So, for example, if we look at an approach to problem solving, a lot of it is dependent on your right brain skill, the attitude, etc. But there are methodologies, there are stuff like that which enable you to know about problem solving. The second thing which I think all B schools should train, and all students, irrespective of their specialization, should get into this mode is think customer centricity. Customer centricity is not the domain of the sales and marketing teams at all. Customer centricity is the domain of finance, is the domain of operations, domain of HR. So I, Srini, would put these two as the biggest areas which I can think of, that how do you solve problems? What is your approach to solving problems? And there are textbook approaches, there are intuitive approaches. And the other is that having this entire mindset towards the customer. That's the way the world is moving.
Wonderful. So thanks for that, Shantanu. I think, important aspects that you touched upon how to be, prepared for this. There are some questions which came in, so I thought I'll just answer those. I think some of them were asking about summers, what are some of the specific things that they need to do. So in my view, I think one thumb rule for every B school student, I repeat, one thumb rule for every B school student is must have 20 years, 1,000 of campuses I would have gone, and saying that with experience, and probably the people sitting in this panel jointly have over 200 years of experience. When we exchange notes, I think one thing which comes out is how well read are you? What I mean is, if one reads 20 pages a day for 200 days, I think it makes a lot of a difference. You are in an MBA college for 2 years, 400 days, read 20 pages every single day. Something on business, something on environment, something on critical issues, something on COVID, doesn't matter. But idea is for you to increase your worldly knowledge. Keep it as a thumb rule. I mean, today, many of us have more than 20 years of experience, have been at senior levels. Even that reading makes a hell lot of a difference between a good to great. I think that's one thumb rule. Second, I think very important aspect is, conversational skills, not really communication skills, and understanding of the business. This morning at about 10 o'clock, I was in conversation with a very senior campus recruiter from one of the leading banks, which probably hires a few thousands of people every year. I was asking them a few questions on what do they look for in students, what are the gaps, etc., etc. I think two aspects have come out very clearly. They say when we ask students, tell us 15 products of our bank or any bank as such, right? Often 50% of the students don't know beyond 2-3 products, which are very obvious products: home loan, car loan, CASA accounts, etc. Now, that's to do with how well do you understand the business. So I think that's one answer which you should always ask. And in fact, I would encourage the B schools, and I'll request them to react after my next couple of points. I would encourage them to have almost sessions which help conversational skills around understanding business. How does each of these business make money out of it? I think that value tree in the mind of the student makes all the difference. How does student get that? Thing that I've been speaking, and I'm sure some of the institutes have adopted it quite well. Even if you're an HR student, if you're a marketing student, sales student, doesn't really matter. I think reading annual reports is a way of life and makes a lot of a difference for each one of the students. Now, because we had questions on saying what specific one should read, I'm just sharing some of those things. I think one more clear aspect which is coming across from all the discussions here and the previous discussions we have been researching and talking to at least dozens of campus recruiters is when you say flexibility, not just in terms of learning and learning, but also the way you look at functional areas. You may have mastered in finance, you may have specialized in finance, but you are wanting to be a general manager someday, you wanted to be a VP someday, CEO someday. So an exposure to sales, an exposure to HR, an exposure to functions apart from finance are equally important. I heard this recruiter from a bank telling that one of the things they look for is, are people really reluctant to join sales irrespective of your functional area? If the answer is that you are very reluctant to join sales even for a short period of time, that also reflects that how you look at a particular job functionally. So I think the point is flexibility also comes from your ability to experiment and look at different functional areas to go deeper into a business. I thought these are some of the important aspects that each B school should structurally factor. It's not about having one odd session, one odd competition, but almost like a way of life for each of these B schools. Now I'll move to the team of academic leadership. We heard Tanveer speaking, we had Frederick speaking, Strafford speaking, and Remy speaking, Shantanu speaking on expectations, some of the things to do. I'll request Dr. Madhumita to share. What is your expectation from corporate or reaction to some of the expectations from the corporate? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Rini, because we are really flooded and overwhelmed with all the inputs that the corporates are giving. And it's really a great learning for most of the people who are gathered here. I'm sure the institutes and the heads of the institutes, placement people are eager to hear, and they have got their bit from all the people who are representing the corporates. And I'm very thankful to you that you have opened this question to us, that what is it that we expect from the corporates, if at all. I think once, even though I'm representing a very old B school, I would like to say that what I'm going to say now is on behalf of all the institutes which are there in this country. Some have a pedigree, some are very new, and some are in the middle run. But I'm sure everybody wants to sell and give the best of the opportunities to their students is what I'm presupposing. And with that knowledge at my hand, what I would like to request to the industry is it not a clean slate that once again the industry can look at the institutes with, where the accreditations, the rankings, and these become the hurdles for us? I mean, I would be happy, or I don't know, let me just make one statement here. All the impressive panelists who are right now representing the corporates who are sitting, we have Darashaw, we have ENY, and we have, so Ola. So what I'm trying to say is, they may or may not have come to my campus, they may have gone to some other campus, they may not have gone to some campuses at all. The point is, are we always going to face the hurdle that some ranking comes in our way and the company says, oh, you are not ranked, so the tier stops us from coming to your campus? I would definitely feel that when the skills are being looked upon as new skills being developed, we never know what are the strengths the various institutes have. So my one earnest desire is that, instead of depending on some kind of criteria that somebody else is providing, I would like the industry to come up with some ranking business. If Darasha had to ask me, okay, tell me, what do you have? Do you have this, this? Then you are liable to be, my person on my list or the institute on my list. I'm just taking Darasha's example because Frederick did visit. And I'm very happy to say also that maybe not at the beginning level, but in all the best of the companies, my alumni are currently at a very senior level. So I do enjoy that element of having my alumni placed at various places at a lateral positions. So later part of the day, if they get what they deserve because they have done well in the industry, shouldn't the institutes also get some benefit out of this new situation that we are coming up with? If you feel that, okay, this institute is very proactive, they are trying to reach out to us. I would give you an example that summers now, we have talked about summers, and most of the, like, we immediately got a AICT approval saying that please do not worry that students cannot go to the industry in these 2 months. Give them problems and let them sit at home and solve it and treat them as summers. So an academic project is going to be treated as summers for the coming year because it's a COVID-19 situation that we all are facing. we were little fortunate to get all the 360 students actual summer placements from the companies, because they were coming forward to our requests, and they converted their summer into a research project or whatever they thought was the problem that they wanted to share. And I'm ever so grateful to those companies saying that, okay, they thought that we were wanting to give it to our students, and they were good enough to, reply to our requests. So if I'm trying to do my best and offer the best to the industry, prepare the best of the students for the fit of the industry, shouldn't the industry also look at the everybody who is trying to reach out to them with a little more scanner, of course, with a scanner, but definitely a good positive scanner that, okay, maybe you mean business and you want to do something good. So my request is that industry should definitely get into maybe giving, if they have a research problem which they would like to share, institutes are very eager to take these kind of, and that is a trial for industry to see whether the students are developing themselves well, that for qualification of getting into a placement.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
feel
you,
that
Dr.
there is a possibility of.
Yeah. So I must thank you. I got a business idea from you of getting into the business of rating now.
Oh yeah.
I'm joking about that, but I think key points. I think important points. What I heard is create a fair platform. It's not about X institute or Y institute. Have whatever stringency that you need to have as per company policy. But if those are shared and opportunity is given, for all you know, out of 100 students, maybe 5 reach that level or 50 reach that level. That's in principle of fairness. So I think, I'm just trying to balance is, I think very important that a few trial, between the industry and institute, we may have to kind of curate that to help of doing some projects for 1 month, 2 months to assess the quality rather than deciding somebody on basis of 15-minute interview or rating. Over to you, ma'am.
Just one more point that I wanted to bring to the notice of the HR people who are sitting here. See, the recruitment really gives you, your hands are always full. And all this while, there could be so many corporates who are in your offices who would be really eager to reach out, because they all say that, yes, we want to, but the physical distance takes us away. We can't come to, like Shantanu can't come from Pune to Mumbai. But now if I hold a lecture for him, I'm sure he would be able to give me an online lecture. So opening your companies to these kind of, like if the officers were asked or the company corporates were asked that, is anybody interested in giving some more inputs and reaching out to the students, the pool of, contributors.
Can I request others to please put on mute mode? Can I request others to please put on mute mode, please? Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So I think important aspect to basically say that rather than going by some prefix things, we should go by those norms, but give more opportunities and try out a few things of bridging this gap more structurally, or a lab approach for not literally a lab, but almost a matchmaking / a marketplace for both sides, sharing knowledge as well as giving opportunities to students. I think I picked up that point essentially to say that how can we, for example, one of the companies at Tata Group company had a real issue, not issue, but a problem, real business problem. Day before we were talking and they shared about, these are the benchmark that they need to do, etc., etc. I tried and, I told them, why don't we try out 3-4 B school smart students to try this out. Okay. Now, we didn't even float this project fully, but we spoke to a couple of people just to understand. But the excitement is so high from the B school to try doing this. And, maybe such projects which have real-time meaning for the organizations and also a lot of learning and excitement among the people, we may have to find a way to structurally do that rather than one of the things. I think thank you for that. I'll now request Dr. Sidney to share her quick view on your expectation of support from the corporate. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I believe that it's very important to stay plugged into this paradigm of current business scenario, and understanding this, if we have incorporate people from the corporates into our systems completely, start to finish. So whether it is looking at even admissions, and if we have some industry panelists with us, and to know the needs of the businesses, they're able to identify the right kind of people that should be coming in into the business schools. Or I'm just trying to give a life cycle of a student. So whether it starts at the admission stage and goes on right from the academics to the interning to absolutely when the student is ready to be placed, at every point of time, if we partner with the corporates in a way as where is the gap, what do we need to do, that would be brilliant, I think, for both ends, for because what you need at the corporate is that is what we are going to be preparing students here for. So it actually will fit in very well. And at the same time, we would be looking at what you need, you would be looking at letting us know what you need. So we are able to tweak whether it's the curriculum, whether having corporate people on our board of studies, on curriculum development, on bringing in new initiatives, and regularly inviting people from the corporates to speak, our guest faculty from there, or experts, practitioners from the corporates to come and talk and actually supplement what is happening academically in the classroom. That would, I think, actually that sets the ball rolling in a very right way. Students are able to link what's there in the books, or the knowledge that our professors are imparting, to what is actually happening practically in the corporates, and where is the gap or what needs to be looked in with a 360-degree perspective. So that works very well. And so we believe it's actually partnering together to what the economy needs. So B School, the presence of B School itself is for that purpose, that what do the corporates need, what kind of managers do we want to make, what kind of entrepreneurs do we want to make, and looking at the current scenario, the businesses are going to change big time. So we've already seen after demonetization itself, the way e-businesses and e-commerces started flourishing at every level. So be it a vegetable vendor to be it PayPal, or be it, take it to any level. And you could see how e-commerce has changed the situation completely. Online education is taking up in a big way now, looking at what's happened to pandemic, and physical schools are not possible. So automatically, without wasting any time, I think seamlessly online learning got into the picture. So with all of this happening, we know how things are going to be changing or panning out even in the corporate sector. We have to be ready with all of that. And that is only possible if we actually tie up with corporates in a way at every step. We are connected completely to understand and absorb the needs, and bring that in. Be very beautifully, I think Dr. Saxena was mentioning, course corrections need to be done. So we do not have to wait for all of that to happen. Right now, at this point of time, you start tweaking in the path that you need to take so that you're able to achieve where you have to go.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saini, for that. So I think what I'm picking up is important is not just the intention and not one of the stuff, one of the sessions, but in the overall cycle, how can we have systems integrated between corporate and the academic life so that one could give an opportunity for course correction as required. In the interest of time, maybe I'll just request each one of you, I'll just take names, and each one of you to give one message to the student, a crisp message to the student, who are hundreds of them who are on the call at this point of time, of one thing that you would want students to do both from corporate side and academic. I'll now request Dr. Preeti to say one thing that you think students need to do baptism by fire in next 6 months period of time.
I think very essential, the students need to have faith in their own institute. The institutes are definitely inclined to giving them best education. So what if it is an online platform? We have distanced ourselves because of the kind of scenario. We were in the midst of, working on an equation between industry and academia, and trying to make management education a more techno-managerial. And we were trying to bring in a lot of technology while we were talking of the cognitive concepts. And, we wanted that students be equally skilled at handling technology. When we had a variable like COVID coming in, and it's almost become a governing variable. And what we are looking at, with the students is that this is a situation which we all need to come together and work on, and have faith in the entire education system. So what if it is an online platform? And if and so also the placements, the corporate also understands that this academic year is going to be handled this way. The students do not have a platform of face-to-face interaction, be it a sales kind of profile, and so the corporate understands that yes, this batch, there is certain limitations, but then there are certain other things, so the students need to perhaps learn the how to connect through the tech platforms, be it the consumer, be it the organization, and the institutes are there to support them and prepare them for the kind of changes that organizations are expecting them to have.
Thank you, ma'am. What I heard is have faith, and this is a macro environment change. So don't get defocused. Keep working on what you need to do much more, and adapt to the changes that you require. Can I request Rimi to say one sentence on what's your message? One sentence.
Sure. Srini, what I think, and it's for all the students, something that is really important that you keep in mind is to have an open mind, and um, and can you hear me? I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Okay,
Yes, yes,
okay.
Rumi.
Sorry. Okay, so what I was saying is that students should have an open mind, and not have the reluctance of not taking a particular job, because what we see during our interviews, and especially once a student gets onboarded, is this is not what I expected. I thought I would be doing some strategic work, strategic planning. Strategy and planning is something that is stuck up in a business school's student's mind. um, Doing operations, execution is something very important. So be ready to come into the corporate world and start executing first, and then we think about strategy and planning.
Thanks, Rimi. So expectation setting. Yeah, when you said strategic planning, I was laughing because it took me 12 years post qualification to even get into strategy. So you need to build certain foundations, and expectation setting is what I heard. Stafford, one sentence from you, messaging to what is your message to the students at large?
Yeah, I think think of your most favorite product or your favorite brand, right? And how did those companies come out with that product? They did a lot of research as to what the customers would want. They did a lot of planning and preparation as to what features to offer. They did a lot of concept of how do they design the entire thing and take it across to the customer. Similarly, I think all of you should build your CVs, build your profiles, keeping in mind your customer, which would be the organization you want to work for, the place which or the career path that you want to take forward. And let's change the approach of making a CV as to what all have I done, and let me see how I can put that into the CV. But change it to what are the things that I need to do, what are the skills that I need to pick up and build my CV from there, right? I think that is, if you can do that one thing, it would make a world of a difference to your placement efforts.
Thanks a lot, Stafford, for that. Shantanu, if God came in and told you that how can you bridge the gap between what academic world is looking for, corporate is looking for, mutual expectations, and we did get some expectations, and you and I are in the cusp of being a layer in between corporate and academics, if I can say so. What would your message be if you have to do that in 2 sentences?
So I think this movement from know-how to show-how. So Srini mentioned reading, annual reports. If there is a system, and I'm quoting this because I know this has been successfully implemented. So if you have a concept like a lab in the box, wherein students from finance to finance projects, students from HR to HR projects, students mix together and do projects, that gives you a forum. So look for those forums. So for example, if you take something like leadership, attending a class on leadership is fine, but studying the leadership styles of an Anand Mahindra or a N. Chandrasekharan, etc., do it in a group. Force yourself to do these. Ask yourself these questions. That will make that transition. So that is my message to you guys, that identify what you need to know and then show what you need to know. Yeah. So all the best.
Thank you. Frederick, as usual, you have the last word to say. 2 sentences on your messaging to the hundreds of students here.
Well, I'll just share a few words which come to my mind. One is agility. mental grit, understanding of the basics, and most importantly, humility. Understand passing out of B school, we're not going to change the world in one day. So have that mental grit, keep focused, and take one step at a time. That's the sum of it. If everyone does this, I think life is going to be very smooth as we enter the corporate world.
Superb. Thank you. Thanks for that, Frederick. I think, a couple of suggestions I'll have, and we can take offline out of it, apart from annual report and the concepts I talked about. I think very important is for the academic leadership and corporate to come together, especially post July, August, when the new semester comes in, to really have a hard look. Do we really need to spend that kind of time in doing 15 subjects or whatever, 10 subjects, 15 subjects, 40 hours? Because, people missed out on summers, and that was questions were pouring in on summers on the chat window. Little less exposure or more exposure students would have gone. How do we do that? So my feeling is that, corporates and academic institutions should come back and think about having more of project approach and less of, subject approach in the third semester before the placements, so that students have a new learning for the loss of summers or for, gain of summers, whichever way one wants to look at it. And these projects need not be very complicated, large size projects. Some of these projects could be a 2-day hypothesis verification to a 15-day hypothesis verification, to say so. I think real projects, while some of us will do our efforts to bring in some of these live projects and share with some of you, which we have been doing. But I think as a institution and corporates, if this can be formalized, things would be great. So my request to corporate is also think through some small assignments which you think students can do and gain experience, and you are giving a chance for him or her to prove, would be great. We'll think about how to create a marketplace. My request to academic leadership is, let's be practical. If there are 10 subjects and the guy has to read 40 hours per subject and give half a dozen examinations, there's no time he or she can learn. How can we blend these two for this year, experiment that, right? And so that it's a win-win situation for both corporate as well as the world of academics. All good things, all good things have to come to end. Sorry, somebody was saying something.
Dr. Sidney, I just wanted to add one thing to your point about doing the projects. Even for students, if you're not able to find a corporate that's willing to host you for a project, there are a lot of NGOs around. There are a lot of people around your college who really would need help and would welcome help from you. Do try and take the learnings that you have in college and try and apply it at least in those places. Go to an old age home, go to an orphanage. Go with a good heart and a good intent to do something useful for them, and that would also be a good experience for you in terms of knowledge and growth.
Srini, before you close, I have just one question which has come from quite a few directions. Is that a lot of students, and this can be answered by anyone in the industry panel or by you, a lot of students and people are asking, so what are the sectors where you think that there's going to be a lot of demand? Now, intuitively, I can name a few, but perhaps a more thought through and educated answer could be.
Let me take an attempt, and would request my other colleagues also to add to say so. I think both banking and NBFC sectors would continue the hiring, maybe 10% here or there, but the spread would go out. These are not the sectors to be written off. Yeah. So I think colleges also need to look at how do students get exposure to mortgage and housing finance and those kind of concepts which are emerging, right? The sectors which will do well, in my view, are the traditional sectors, which means the FMCG sectors, the manufacturing sectors, etc., where the impact are relatively lower. The sectors where probably the placement will take a hard hit from 2021 perspective would be the hotel industry, the hospitality industry, travel tourism. Then the new age internet companies, some of them may reduce the number of hiring being done, to say so. And probably the auto sector. These are the sectors in which there would be diminishing demand. Probably the days of 100 people being taken goes away. But the balance of the sectors I talked about, probably the sunshine would keep going up. In fact, in my view, there will be consolidation. For example, let's say consulting. Some of the small-time consulting companies may or may not do, but the large consulting companies would grow and the hiring would continue. If any of my co-panelists have a difference of opinion or different sectors very happy to learn from them. If Frederick or Rimi or Tanveer or Stafford or any one of you have any views, feel free to share that.
I'd probably go right after you, Srini. I think some of the statutory work that happens in the industry, because we have a lot of folks from MBA, we have a lot of folks who are focused on the finance side of the world, and you correctly mentioned NBFCs are absolutely going to see if not a revival, at least a steady state movement in terms of number of opportunities. But I think things like audit, tax, in times like these, there are tighter controls, and I think these kind of roles, whether it is internal controls or internal audit, whether it is a stat audit, tax, just like Benjamin Franklin a few centuries back said that you can run away from anything, but the only two things you can't run away: death and taxes. So tax, kind of a space is not going to come under pressure. We'll only see more and more growth. However, in everything, and I answered one of the questions on the side on the chat, and I did make a fleeting mention towards it, that if I were an MBA student, I won't stop myself from learning about the digital skills, about analytics, about the latest things like Power BI or Alteryx or whatever it is. I don't need to be an engineer anymore to know technology, because I'm already a consumer of technology. Most of the kids who are passing out right now are actually technology natives. They were actually born with a system in their hands, and so I think they need to understand that they can't run away from technology and the impact of it, only because they are not in an engineering course or not in an MBA systems. I think everyone needs to have that under their belt. I think that would be my message on this.
Thank you so much to each one of you for sharing your thoughts, candid thoughts, etc. This will not be a one-off kind of a session. We would have once a month different institutes, different directors, different perspectives alongside with the corporate world. The whole idea is how can we bridge this gap genuinely, because this gap has been in existence since the time recruitment was in existence, probably a few decades old. How can we take some concrete steps towards solving these problems, to say so? From our side, I think we are clear that some of the live projects in the third semester, we'll chat with some of the B schools on getting some of the live projects, so that in lieu of some of the subjects, if those live projects can compensate for the loss of summers or different type of summers that students have done, how can we still compensate for that is something which we commit from our side. So thank you so much for your time, each one of you. This is available on YouTube, and next month, probably first week of July, we'll be back with one more session, probably little more niche segment that we are going to discuss about probably around 4th of July. So thank you so much for coming, and I thank each of these panelists to actually spare a Saturday, especially given the COVID situation where work from home, work for home, everything is an important aspect for each one of us. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Srini. Absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks to all the participants for coming in.
Thanks all.